Good morning. You're listening to DC Comics Rush Hour, a podcast for DC Comics fans by a DC Comics fan. Alrighty, well, I got a couple of things to talk about. I know it's usually just one topic, but I think one of them's short and I can cover both. First one this morning, The Flash from this week, episode 3 of the season. We get, I think Hazard is what they ended up calling her. I thought Jinx would have been a better name, but either way, this one is a fairly funny episode. I would say silly throughout almost the entire thing, even when you were in the biggest of danger, you know, the climax of the story. There was still a lot of silliness. They had fun with it. The characters definitely had a lot of fun. I think last week's opening 15 to 30 minute, you know, the first half or so was actually laugh out loud funnier, but this one was more fun throughout the episode. So you have a character, and this is the second one of the non-particle accelerator created metahumans. Last week we met Kilgore, and at the end of it we discovered he was the first of 12, but we don't know how they were created or anything. This week we meet the second of 12, and we know from the very first moments that it's the second of 12 because the Thinker is watching all of this and is saying we found the second one, and, you know, monitoring her. And we see 3 weeks ago, we see that she's somebody who is having bad luck constantly in her life, and after being fired from a job and her car is booted so she can't get in it, gets on the bus, and the bus, suddenly something's happening outside of a bright light happens, and cut to present day. So we don't really know at that moment what happened, but we know there was an event, and we saw Kilgore was on the bus. So the people on the bus there, those were the ones that something happened to. That was the event. We do find out before the end of the episode what the event was, but at that moment we're not sure. But we do know that she's the second of 12. I don't know that we're going to go 12 episodes straight. In fact, because of the crossover, we know we won't. I don't know if they'll spread the 12 out throughout the entire season, or if they'll handle those 12 in the first maybe 2/3 of the season, and then the big bad after. But we do get some other plot developments with supporting characters. Harry's back, so we're happy to see Harry back. Jesse Quick does not come back. We do get a quick video of her that doesn't work really well. And sorry for the noise, as a really loud pickup truck decides to go by and show off how bad a shape his truck is in. Anyway, Jesse Quick sends a breakup cube with her father to Wally, who's expecting her for a date. Instead, he gets the breakup cube, which of course is a thing on their Earth, but not on ours, or not on Earth 1 or whatever. So fine. She's not coming. Probably the actress is involved somewhere else doing something. Harry doesn't have a place there, so by the end of the episode, Harry is now part of the team again fully, which is good. We have to have a Harrison Wells there every season. And I don't mean that as in we have to. No, he is a critical part of the story. I do think we have to have a Harrison Wells there, whether it's a Harrison Wells training for real, even though he's the villain, or whether he's this Harry, who's a little bit more gruffer or rougher, or whether he's the HR who can't come back now. He passed away, and Savitar killed him. Whichever the case is, we have to have some form of Harry there. So, yay, we got Harry back. Vibe and him have some really cool scenes. Pretty much everybody has a cool scene except Wally, who by the end of the episode has decided he's going to leave and go do his own thing. He had gone to Earth 2, and he says, nobody noticed I was gone. I am proud to say I noticed he was gone. When they were in the middle of the crisis and everybody was trying to do something, I even turned to my wife and said, where's Wally? Why isn't he helping out? What's going on there? Well, now we know he had gone over to Earth 2 to find out what was going on with Jesse. And in doing so, it missed the action. It also saved him on budget just a little bit. But anyway, so he's going to go off, he'll be back whenever they need him. As he pointed out himself, he's a speedster. He can be there in a moment's notice if needed. So while he's gone, probably the only one not given much screen time at all is Caitlin in this episode, and she's been given, some of the previous ones. So everybody has some time off. This was Caitlin's. Even though she's there, it's very minor. She gets a fun little bit at the beginning while they're playing laser tag, but that's about it. So you do have a lot of those family moments, a lot of the supporting cast moments, a lot that just really, really does work. The villain this time is not some evildoer. She uses her good luck / bad luck field to get some money and other stuff, but she's not an evil person. So since they didn't have, heavy problems, they dealt more with the supporting cast, which is great. That's a great way to do it. I'm hoping this work truck that's in front of me here doing some work in the middle of the intersection is not about to back up, because I can tell they're done. Nope, okay, good. I get to go before they move on to the next step, which is going to be probably getting in everybody's way while they leave. Anyway, sorry, they didn't know through the intersection, so in the end, that didn't cause any problems. Anyway, so tons of supporting cast work. It all worked really well. The villain, I still say the Thinker is incredibly creepy, but in a good way, something that really works. But I am surprised, and I'm wondering how intentional it is. And you're thinking it's got to be, or if it wasn't intentional, but the person who created the costume and such, someone did point it out to them before they ever got to the opening of the season, that they've made him look remarkably like Metron, sitting in the Mobius chair. It's not who he is, and it's not what that is, or at least it doesn't seem to be, but that's what they made him look like. And it could be, since they know they won't get to use the whole Kirby Fourth World stuff, that this is just kind of their nod to it. They've already had the Guardian on there, so this is just another nod. And that's kind of cool. We do, at the end, as I said a moment ago, find out what was the event, or I guess it wasn't even the end. Somewhere towards the end, we find out what was the event that created all the metas. And by the end, the whole group has figured out that there's, a total of 12 of them. The event on the bus was the one that had to swerve right as Barry came out of the Speed Force. So the Speed Force opened up a giant portal on the middle of the street when Barry came back the first episode. Great. And then closed behind him. Great. But unleashed a wave of dark matter, in their words on the show, and that dark matter is what created this bus full of metahumans. And of course, we're going to take them at their word that all 12 of them were turned into metahumans, because, not everybody who's exposed to the particle accelerator got metahuman powers. There's nothing that says all 12 people had to have become metahumans. But, sure, fine. It doesn't bother me to say it did, because it was for whatever reason. It doesn't really matter. But they have, now Team Flash has a board very similar to what the Thinker has. The Thinker's is more high-tech. He has a board that's a whole bunch of, it's basically one giant computer screen in a grid of 12 squares with video feeds of the two villains that they have found so far. Over at Team Flash, they pretty much have a whiteboard where they have crossed it off into 12 squares and have just tacked up pictures like you would in Castle when they were doing their investigation board or whatever. And then conveniently, I thought this was a little too convenient. Conveniently, Harry puts together the fact that somebody might have orchestrated all of this, and even orchestrated a reason for Barry to have to be brought back out of the Speed Force in order to create metahumans. And of course their answer is, why would anybody want to create metahumans? The real comment is, okay, just how Sherlock Holmes are they trying to make Harry here? Because that was putting together some really loose facts. If they had done the same thing after the third or fourth, I think probably fourth villain, that probably would have made sense, and have Harry be the first one to realize there's a pattern. But after two, I'm not sure I would have gone there. Even counting the Samuroid, or whatever they called him, even counting him, saying that's 3 events. I'm still not sure the pattern would really stick out yet. But that's okay. That's all right. Again, everything except that probably worked. And then the big surprise, Joe's going to be a daddy again. So we'll see how that goes. He was very shocked. It was very funny. So we'll wait till next episode to see. So the second topic I wanted to get to, the Oz Effect, Part 4. All right. So the Oz Effect is still trending along. In this episode, or this issue, we finally find out the real motivation behind Jor-El. Again, we're assuming it really is Jor-El. There's no reason right now to think it was not. So whether I say Jor-El or Mr. Oz, I mean the same thing. So we find out Jor-El's real motivation. He knows that Dr. Manhattan is out there. He knows that all of reality is threatened, and he wants to get Clark and his family, or of course from his point of view, Cal and his family, away from that. And he doesn't want to save them all, even Lois, unless he later shows that he didn't care about Lois and that was a lie. It seems like he really does care about her, and it would make sense if he really is Jor-El and really does care about the survival of his son and grandson. Well, she is the wife and mother of those two, so it would make sense to care, even though she doesn't have powers herself. She has a great mind, as he put it, and she would fit in fine on this planet that is definitely modeled around the whole Legion of Superheroes ideal future look. We don't know where it is, and if in his words all of reality is threatened, well, wouldn't another planet be threatened? Unless, of course, that is in another universe, another reality somewhere, which is always possible. But, we don't really know where it is, so it could be another universe, that they'd have to travel to. Either way, while Superman is dealing with all the crises that are happening left and right, and stops a few and mentions how the Flash and Wonder Woman and Aquaman and Bruce and everybody else is stopping crises left and right, sounds like they're getting them all under control. But while doing that, Jor-El is convincing / brainwashing / giving his side of the story, whatever you want to call it, to Jonathan, and Jonathan buys into it, which we have no reason to doubt him. Jor-El has helped him in the past, seems to really care, and seems to have the best motivations. This could be one of those cases where the bad guy, if you want to call him the bad guy, the antagonist, really does have the best of intentions from his point of view, just not what the protagonist, the heroes, want to see happen. Fair enough. Sometimes you have to say there's not a straight bad guy. There's just two sides, and only one side can win in the end. He, unfortunately, to make sure that he could be counted as a bad guy, they do show that he uses some really bad tactics, providing the wrong tools to the wrong people to set up, a lot of death on Earth. From his point of view, all he's doing is providing the means. He's still leaving it up to the humans to decide whether or not to do anything. So from his point of view, he's not firing the gun at someone. He's just handing the loaded gun to one person and letting them decide whether to point it and pull the trigger. It's a fine line there in theory. In practice, it wasn't a very fine line. He definitely has these people brainwashed into being, dedicated followers who are going to be willing to do anything. They're not really a random person being handed an opportunity. They're people who have bought into his whole concept. So of course they're going to pull the trigger in every instance. So I don't really buy into that. So he does in that way truly become the bad guy. That's okay. You have to have a bad guy in the story. So that's him. And it also lets Clark, who I'm going to still refer to as Clark, it lets Clark still hesitate about whether or not he's really Jor-El. But even says, even if he is, then he's not the man or the hero that I thought him to be. So even if he's willing to accept that he is his biological father, doesn't matter. What he's doing is wrong. So Superman has his head on straight completely. He's not being screwed up at all. But unfortunately, as you get to the end and Jor-El reveals that he's wanting to leave, and even tells Clark about the big bad that's coming. And Clark says, no, I'm not taking my family, stay away from my son, and so on, and starts to move towards Jor-El. Whether he was actually going to attack him or not, don't know. More than likely, it was going to be more of a shove back. It was like, I told you to step back, one of those kind of things. Jonathan steps in between them and, catches his father's fist, which again, I don't know, that's more of a graphical thing there. I don't really think it was going to be a straight punch. Either way, he stops him. So next part 5 is called Fathers and Sons. So it is definitely going to be the fight for Jonathan's spirit, soul, decision, direction, heart, whatever you want to call it. That's definitely where the next part is going, and it'll be good. It's the stuff in Superman I've enjoyed the most over the past couple of years, so yay. That's where the finale for this big story is going. I'm very happy about that. And that brings me to the end of my discussion of the Oz Effect Part 4, the end of the Flash discussion, and the end of my Rush Hour commute. So, for John Paul and DC Comics Rush Hour, long live the Legion.